we are going to the Brazilian GP in Interlagos. That's in Sao Paulo. The Brazilian Grand Prix has been held 52 times. The first was held in 1972, and that is the home Grand Prix of 18 Senna. But you know the funny thing? Alain Prost had won 18 Senna's biggest protagonist in race, has won 6 of the Brazilian GP in Interlagos, and McLaren had won 12 as a team constructor. And this shows that it's not about your home race, but it's about how great some drivers are. And you know the funny thing? Alain Prost won more after 18 Senna died, but they had a good competition. Those guys are great guys. Coming into this season, we saw what happened in Mexico, in which FIA F1 had come up again with beautiful inconsistencies in their calls. Now, how do we move on from here? We saw a lot of this in 2021, though we've seen some in 2025, but not as proud and loud as what we saw in Mexico. And we hope they're able to correct this so we don't have the repeat of what happened in 2021. The championship is getting tighter and stiffer and more interesting. We want to see a championship in which we can say, oh, this person won purely on performance and pace, or this person won purely on his driving skills, not by mistakes or F1 mistakes or stewards brouhaha. We want to see a great championship happen, and with that is what every one of us love to see, and I hope this can happen. But the way we are looking at it, if FIA keep going down this road, they're going to have a repeat. But I hope we don't have a repeat, because that would be very huge. Now, how does the championship flow? We have Lando Norris now topping the championship for the first time this season. Was able to topple his teammate Oscar Piastri, that has had about 3 back-to-back meltdown, should I say meltdown or inconsistency in his races recently. From the beginning of the season, he has been so focused. He has had everything working for him, and Lando Norris just came from nowhere, reset himself, rejigged himself, and is right into the championship. Are we going to see the two McLarens fighting tooth and nail to give us a great championship? Well, we will see if that would happen in the last 4 races of the season, because after this Brazilian GP, we'll be moving to Las Vegas. From Las Vegas to Qatar, then from Qatar down to Abu Dhabi. So it's going to be a jam-packed season with driver championship looking like a very tough one. We already know that the Constructors' Championship has been sealed by McLaren, but the Drivers' Championship is looking very tight. We have Lando Norris leading the Driver Championship by a point from his teammate. That's 357 to 356. Now, they are going to a track in which you are more reliant on your engine and little aerodynamics. The straight, especially the first and the last sector, really relies on pure pace, your engine power. That is where your energy is. A lot of drivers will need to bring their best out and to bring performance to their car, and also a lot of manufacturers will need to look at what they need to unlock in their power unit to make sure they get this done. Now remember, it's a sprint weekend, baby. Going into a sprint weekend, you only have FP1 to set up your car. When you set it up, bang, you go straight into sprint qualifying. From sprint qualifying, bang it straight into sprint race. Then after sprint race, you make some changes to your car because you learn. Then boom, straight into the race qualifying. When you go into the race qualifying, after it, you lock your car into park for me for the main race. So it's going to be very important for the drivers, because and the teams, especially between McLaren and Red Bull. That's between Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and Max Verstappen. Now, theirs are just the 3 tackling. From that point down, leave the rest. Some people are still plotting George Russell could still win the championship. George Russell is 99 points down Lando Norris, and we have 4 more races. I don't know the magic that he wants to do to win the championship, except Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Max Verstappen are totally out of the race. They are not running again. Except that happens, and if that is not happening, it's not possible. Sorry, let me say it again. It's not possible. Now we have 3 Britons in top 6. We have them in great sequence. We have Lando Norris topping the championship. We have George Russell 4th, and Lewis Hamilton 6th. Now, the major opportunity we are going to see is what happens in Interlagos, because Interlagos is one of the places in which tells us how the championship will be. Remember in 2021, that was where we knew that Mercedes still has a chance with Lewis Hamilton. In 2008, that was where Lewis Hamilton won his championship. That was where everything went down on the last lap, the changes, everything just, and He got it right. It's going to be very interesting if you are seeing this year's championship looking either stronger for the McLarens or weaker for the McLarens, right? So that's what we're going to see in Interlagos. I know it's going to be a very interesting one. Interlagos race, which is currently held at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace in Interlagos neighborhood, Cidade do Troa, Sao Paulo. It was first held in 1972, and since then we've had different races. We've had it moved to Jacarepoa from 1978 to 1989. Then it came back to Interlagos, where it has since been held. The Interlagos track has 15 turns and 2 DRS zones. The wind blows from the north, which makes it very interesting. During the rain, drivers can make mistakes, and we've seen mistakes on formation laps over the season. We've seen the rain pushed some drivers out. We've seen terrific races around there. And around the Senais is one place in which the drivers have to have their full focus. So it's going to be very interesting seeing what drivers will be doing in Interlagos this weekend. You don't want to miss it, because it's going to be very interesting. The circuit length is a 4.309 kilometers. That's a 2.677 miles. And the race length is a 305.897 kilometers. That is a 190.064 miles and a 71 lap race. The sprint race will be a 24 lap race. So altogether, you're going to be having a 75 lap race this weekend. Looking at the qualifying, it's going to be over 100 laps of races this weekend. So it's going to be 100 laps of action back to back, and that is over 3 to 4 hours of action this weekend. What is the weather going to be like this weekend? Some of the projections are saying the weather is going to look rainy this weekend, but from what we are looking at in Brazil right now, on Friday there will be thunderstorm in the afternoon, but it's going to be humid, 55% humidity, very cloudy, 21 degrees. On Saturday, we expect some rain and thunderstorm. The thunderstorm in Brazil, see, it can change. Anything can change in Brazil. Day can turn to night. That's how fast it can go. On Saturday, we're expecting some rain and thunderstorm. Very cloudy, but more cooler on Saturday. And the temperature is looking like 14 degrees, 55% humidity. And on Sunday, it's looking like sunshine. But remember, ain't no sunshine most times in Brazil. It's looking like sunshine, but 14 degrees and sunshine is not looking perfect, because a lot of people are saying it's going to rain all through the weekend in Brazil. And one thing about Brazil is, even when it's telling you it's not going to rain, you can come on the race day and it rains. Last year, I think we had qualifying very early in the morning before we went in for the race. So anything can happen in Brazil. That strategy, Pirelli are coming with the C2, C3, C4. C2 will be hard, C3 will be medium, and C4 will be the soft. It's telling us that they are coming with other compound of tires. Now, the C2 came in Mexico, but some people used it, but they didn't enjoy it. Albon used it, but the top teams didn't use it because they knew how difficult it would be for them to race with it, so they didn't use it. This selection is looking at to balance the durability, the grip, and the speed, because it might be a one-stop race. Now, Formula One is looking at changing more of the rules next year to use the 3 compounds in races, and also to make sure there are 2 stops in every race, and that will be very interesting. It throws it out more, because now that we're having some tires that people are looking at, these tires might not be good for races. Now, how do they manage it in races? You understand? So let's see how that works. Because Interlagos, it has very abrasive surface and variable weather conditions. Like I said earlier, it can just start to rain. It's going to be very interesting what we'll see this weekend, and how these drivers are going to pull up something spectacular. Now, if the Interlagos is dry, we can go into the lower 1 minute 7 seconds. And if it is on a dry day, if they're not really putting enough, if the engines or the cars are not as fast as it could, we can have lower 1 minute 8 seconds. But certainly it's going to be fast, because this is the last year of this technology and they are moving away into a new engine models, new chassis and vehicle from 2026. For me, I hope they bring more rules that will make racing more competitive and more interesting. Let's see how that goes. In 2018, Lewis Hamilton won, Max Verstappen second, Raikkonen third, Ricciardo fourth, Bottas fifth. 2019, Verstappen won the race, Gasly second, Hamilton had a squabble with Albon, lost his third position to Sainz, got a 5-second penalty for his troubles. 2020, there was no race because of the coronavirus. 2021 was a year of chaos. Lewis Hamilton took pole position, got disqualified for the sprint race because Max Verstappen checked his DRS swing and said he doesn't comply. FIF went there, they said, hey, he's not complying. Max Verstappen, you touching it, you pay €50,000 fine. Lewis Hamilton go to the back of the grid to start He got a 20-place grid penalty for the sprint. Came in the sprint. After the sprint, 24 laps, he came in 5th. For changing his engine, started the race 10th. 5-place grid penalty for the race. Won the race. And we saw a squabble with so many moments in the race with Max Verstappen throwing his elbow out. Some calls like we had in Mexico that were not called. And we saw Chris Horner coming out to be the judge with Michael Masi, in which I knew if Toto Wolff had been taking charge, that same thing would not happen in Abu Dhabi. I think those were points or stages in that season which Toto Wolff really messed himself up. He saw what was happening, how Chris Horner was interfering in races around that point in time. So he could have spoken for his driver also. There was a point in time in the race in which Max Verstappen drove Lewis Hamilton off the racing track. He himself went off the racing track, and Chris Horner quickly came in and said, oh, let them race. This is what they call hard racing. Yes, that's hard racing. From that point, he kept on interfering in races while Toto Wolff kept his calm. So somebody was fighting for his driver. You sat down and expect magic to happen, and that destroyed their championship. A closed mouth is a closed destiny. That's what they say. But he kept quiet in so many instances during that season, and that, for me, really ruined Lewis Hamilton's chances of his 8th World Championship. It was ruined by Mercedes, and I think that was one of the things why Lewis Hamilton was like, I need to leave this team. These people don't care about me. But in the end, Lewis Hamilton won the race. In 2022, we saw Interlagos never disappoints. That's the year of podless for Mercedes. 2022 and 2023, they came podless and lost podlessly. But in qualifying, we had Kevin Magnussen starting on pole for the sprint. He was able to come out, set his fastest pace before the rain started falling. And when the rain came down, nobody was able to come faster than him because they were all on wet tires. He started pole position. That was his first pole position in his career in F1. But in the sprint, George Russell won the race. Carlos Sainz came second, Lewis Hamilton third, Verstappen fourth, and Perez fifth. Now, going into the main race, George Russell won the race conveniently with Lewis Hamilton coming second, Carlos Sainz third. Now in the race, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen came together again. Max Verstappen throwing out his elbow, put Lewis Hamilton off, got a 10-second penalty for his troubles, came back in 6th position. Going to 2023, we had Verstappen qualifying on pole, Leclerc, Stroll third, Alonso fourth. Now, going into the main race, we had Verstappen winning the race conveniently, Lando Norris coming second, Alonso third. Alonso gave it all, as he came out gun blazing, gave it a beautiful race. It was a sprint race. That was the first year in which you have FP1, sprint qualifying, sprint race qualifying. Now, Mercedes went into the race, had a bad setup for their FP1, locked it up into the qualifying. They had to rely on engine power, and that ruined their race. But in 2024, the resurgence of the McLaren, Lando Norris went on pole position, George Russell second, Tsunoda third, Ocon fourth. The two Red Bulls were out in Q2. Lewis Hamilton was out in Q1. Now going into the sprint race in 2024, Lando Norris won the sprint race. Oscar Piastri came second, Max Verstappen came third. Leclerc and Sainz in that order. In the main race, Max Verstappen comfortably won the race without argument. Ocon and Pierre Gasly had a beautiful race. The rain, Ocon was leading the race at a point. Russell too led the race at a point. But the two Alpines standing on the podium in a long time, what a beautiful one for Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. Esteban Ocon drove a hell of a race that day. Mercedes, George Russell came fourth. Charles Leclerc came fifth. Lando Norris sixth. Yuki Tsunoda drove a beautiful race. Himself and Liam Lawson coming seventh and ninth, while Oscar Piastri came eighth. A beautiful race it was. So going into this year, McLaren and Red Bull going hand in hand, boxing it right into the race till the end. What is the role of Mercedes and Ferrari? Ferrari had been poor in the last few races, so let's see how they are able to bounce back and make a good race in Interlagos, because Interlagos brings its own wonders. You can get to Interlagos and you get it right and everything changes for you. But how will the championship become a championship without F1 intervention? When we get to Interlagos, we would know. But it's going to be an interesting race. Don't miss it. The last year budget cap, we saw the FIA said nobody breached, but they had to penalize McLaren and Aston Martin, I think $50,000 each, because of some discrepancies. Hope this team's development will not have an effect on their 2026 cars. And those that are focused on 2026, like Ferrari, that have said, hey, we have nothing to do in 2025 again. Let's just cruise. Hope the cruise and the ability of not learning will not also affect them in 2026. The cars are smaller, the cars are different, the engines are different. But let's see how that helps or ruin them in 2026. But I hope it helps them. So catch you guys next time. If you've not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and know that I'm always here for you. I got you guys. I love you, bye.